Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always a joy to have our good friend Nisha Jackson in the studio with us today. She heads up Ventana Wellness, and we're going to be talking about fatigue.
I know. I was getting tired just thinking about it this morning.
Well, I tell you what, I'm a sufferer. And I don't know if it's just my schedule or stress or a little of everything, you know.
Yeah.
But you're treating this as serious stuff.
Yes.
Why?
And you know, over the years, it's been interesting to watch the patients come in, because I've learned along with them what are all the causes of fatigue, because there's 150 medical conditions that cause fatigue. So sometimes, you know, when people come in and they say, I have this terrible exhaustion or fatigue or just feeling worn out physically or mentally or even emotionally. And I mean, it can be anything from a vitamin deficiency to insomnia to mono. It could be an infectious problem. It could be a hormone problem, a thyroid problem. I mean, there's so many issues that can cause fatigue that sometimes it's a little bit of a puzzle to put things together. But I have found, literally, Perry, starting with the basics and trying to make sure somebody is doing all the things that they can do to improve energy, which we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Many
times it just goes away. So I think that's the key, is making sure that all the basics are covered before you start going and looking for very strange disorders like autoimmune disorders or things that maybe aren't necessarily the case. And even if they are, doing the basics will help you.
Well, let me say to our viewers and listeners, you're welcome to call in. The phone number is 541-776-5368, as we're going to talk about fatigue. And is it somewhat cultural? Are people just burned out?
Well, you know, when I was thinking about this show today, I was thinking, I was just in Europe, and I was thinking, you know, I don't remember meeting anybody over there or seeing anyone over there that says, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired. So I think, I'm sure that they are, but I think it might be a cultural thing. I mean, we're in such a hurry. We're packing in more and more into our day, and our brain is always turned on. If you think about like what causes fatigue, and I think so many times what it is, it's mental fatigue. We're probably not physically fatigued, because most people aren't out, you know, shoveling sand all day long, right? It's probably more mental fatigue, which can kind of spill over into emotional fatigue. But when you have your brain turned on all the time, you're constantly having input coming into your brain. I've got to do this, I've got to be here, I've got to make sure I handle this. And then there's all the complications of your day and the stresses of your day. So I think being turned on mentally all of the time is exhausting. So that is one of the keys, I think, is to turn yourself off. And then, have you ever noticed that when you're kind of mentally exhausted, you end up doing things that aren't necessarily good for you, like eating comfort foods?
Is there a problem?
Or taking a nap later in the day that makes you not sleep well at night.
I had a total zone weekend. I actually slept in one day till 10 o'clock.
Wow.
I think
you need to do that.
You crash once in a while.
Yes, you do. You should use those days for recovery.
Yeah. Yeah,
but there is a technique to taking a nap, and that is making sure that you take it.
I took a nap that same day.
Oh, you did? After you slept till 10?
Yeah.
You were really recovering.
Well, you think most of this is emotional, mental?
I think that that's a good place to start. And I know when my patients come in, I have to go through some of the basics of, let's make sure there are no nutrient or vitamin deficiencies. So cleaning up the diet. We talk a lot about getting the diet really colorful, making sure that the sugar and flour is out of your diet, and alcohol, which is very fatigue causing. So we want to make sure that those things are cleaned up as much as possible, and that they're sleeping. Sometimes we actually have to help them sleep, because that's fundamental to energy, right? You have to be sleeping. And if you're under stress, we need to get patients sleeping about 9 to 10 hours at night, believe it or not, which is not what people want.
No.
People are doing, they're not doing that.
Right. So
starting with those basics, I think, is important, and fixing those vitamin deficiencies. We've talked about vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin D, C, and A are really important for energy. So fixing those deficiencies is really where we start.
All right. Well, if you have any questions, you're welcome to join us. 541-776-5368. And is there a difference between, say, fatigue and just drowsiness?
Yes. So fatigue is something that has a tendency to affect your daily functioning. So just feeling drowsy and kind of temporarily tired might be fixed by drinking a large glass of water. It could be fixed from treating your low blood sugar if you have not eaten for more than 4 hours, or just taking a little bit of a break. So that will probably go away. But fatigue is really it's a diagnosable problem. So it is something that doesn't necessarily go away even when you drink a large glass of water. But I will say that is one thing that really does help afternoon fatigue is drinking a large glass of water.
Okay. You know, the irony of all irony, you made the point earlier, a lot of people fatigue or tired because they physically work hard.
Right.
But most of us now are stressed to the max.
Right.
So it's not a physical workout. And yet physical workout is one of the great things you can do to overcome fatigue. I feel much better after I work out, but boy, do I have to talk myself into it.
Yes.
You know?
Well, have you noticed too that some people just get so tired because they're really not productive? You know, what I mean by that is that you have all these things on your to-do list and it's exhausting just looking at your to-do list of what you need to try to accomplish in a day. And then when you don't get it done, it feels so defeating that you can't see an end to anything. So mentally it's kind of exhausting. I would really rather people go out and be physically exhausted than mentally exhausted.
Yeah.
Because that imbalance between the brain and the body is terrible.
How do you test this? How do you know? How do you start diagnosing this?
Well, I do think it's important that if you have a type of exhaustion that you would say is really dramatically affecting your daily activities, that you should talk to your medical provider about that. That's really where you need to start, because sometimes there's something else going on that really should be diagnosed. Now, if this has been going on for years and you think that it's gradually getting worse, besides talking to your medical provider, I would recommend doing some of the basics that we're going to talk about today. And one of those things is looking at what's going on at the gut. And we talk about food and we talk about cleaning up the diet. We talk about all those things, but one of the things that I have found in my practice to be very effective is actually what I call cleaning up the gut. And getting some of the excessive overgrowth of yeast in the gut, which sounds sort of disgusting, but that's what it's called. It's called candida, or an overgrowth of yeast in the gut. Getting that cleaned up, because then the most wonderful thing happens, and that is the person starts absorbing all of the vitamins and nutrients and minerals from their diet or supplements that they're taking really well, so that helps their energy. So many people have too much overgrowth of yeast in their gut, whether they have a diet that's high in sugar or flour, or maybe they've used antibiotics repeatedly. This is very common for people that have chronic infections, children that have used repeated antibiotics over a course of a year. What that does is it kills everything in the gut except the yeast. And so then the yeast has this wonderful opportunity to overgrow, and that reduces your body's ability to have the right bacteria in the gut, the healthy bacteria, to absorb these nutrients and vitamins that we're taking in.
How do you know if you got candida?
So there's a couple different ways that you can test for candida. First of all, many medical providers actually don't acknowledge that this is a real syndrome. The candida, or the overgrowth of yeast in the gut, is known to only occur, some medical providers feel that it's only known to occur in people who are very immune compromised. So maybe somebody that is their immune system is so compromised that they're in their last months of life. And then the yeast can overgrow in many areas of the body, including the gut. But now we know that there can be a low-lying yeast overgrowth in the gut. It can be tested through the blood. There's a blood test that can be drawn for somebody. It's an immune test to look for candida. We can also test it through the stool. We can test it through the urine, or we can actually give them a written test to look at kind of their history as far as their eating and antibiotic use and symptoms to see if they have candida. So sometimes we use a combination of those tests to identify they have it. But sometimes just listen to somebody's history when they come in, I can tell right away. Or looking at their skin, I can tell too. Your skin looks good. I don't think you have candida.
Okay, let me take a quick call here, and you're welcome to join us. Hi, Jackie. You want to know about naps? My answer is take as many as you can.
Thanks for taking my call, hon. My husband has severe neuropathy in his legs and feet, and he has tremendous trouble sleeping at night. He's up basically every hour, every couple hours, all night long. But he does take naps throughout the day, maybe a short one in the morning. He goes to the gym and works out, plays racquetball, really exerts himself. But then he has to come home in the afternoon and take a 2 to 3 hour nap. I think that's kind of affecting that sleep pattern at night, but he's not quite believing that. So I wanted to ask you, Nancy, what is your belief about, or Nisha, excuse me, about the naps and the sleeping?
Yes. Well, I'm glad you called in, because that's actually been studied extensively. And we know that if you take a nap past 2 p.m. and it's longer than 10 minutes, it will definitely affect your sleep pattern at night. Now, there are some people that need to nap regularly because they have a physical illness that doesn't allow them to exert much energy. But if he could nap prior to 2 p.m. during the day, it would be better for his sleep patterns at night. And not just getting to sleep, because he might say, oh, I can sleep fine, I can get to sleep. But it's really the quality of sleep, the depthness of sleep. So I would recommend that he take his naps before 2 p.m. And if he takes it after 2 p.m., that he limits it to 10 minutes, which sometimes is difficult once you lay down and kind of conk out.
10 minutes.
Okay, well, he heard you, so now we're going to make him try it.
10 minutes? That's like taking one bite of a candy bar.
I also want to say good job for having the problem of neuropathy, which is exhausting, by the way, to have pain. Good job for having neuropathy and still playing racquetball. That's impressive.
That's
yes,
good.
Yes, and he tries. It's a physical, mental, you got to just go do it, and he religiously does it. So,
I love that.
And it improves it so much.
That's
oh my goodness.
great.
Okay, right. Thank you guys.
Thanks
for calling.
Have a wonderful day. God bless you.
Okay, you too. Let me take a quick break. We'll be back. Nisha Jackson's with us. We're talking about fatigue, and one of the questions I want to ask when we come back, if it's not treated, is it dangerous?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question.
All right, we'll take your phone calls too. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with Nisha Jackson, and Nisha heads up Ventana Wellness, and you go to ventanawellness.com, and it's an incredible resource, and if you're looking for any kind of medical advice, I think you ought to check their website out. It's great. Today we're talking about something I think we all suffer from one time or another, and that's fatigue, whether it's physical or mental. I think we all suffer from. There's been times where I got home and I feel like I didn't even want to think.
Well, that's good. You probably shouldn't be thinking.
Well, I thought, I was so tired, I just sat in the chair and just looking out the window was fine. Mm-hmm. And it was a stressful day, had a lot going on,
right.
I was in the middle of a lot of things, and I know that it was clearly emotional. But how dangerous is that?
I think that it's hard to say how dangerous mental fatigue is. But you just have to know that mental fatigue spills over into physical problems. It goes back to whatever is happening in the mind of man is reflected in the disease of the body.
Yeah.
It's really true. And so I think that's where you have to take it, is you have to say, if my brain is plugged in and turned on and overstimulated all of the time from the minute you get up until you lay your head down to go to sleep at night, if your brain is turned on all day, our brain's not designed to do that. So if it is, you are going to have physical problems. You're going to have fatigue, you're going to have pain, your immune system's going to be compromised. So there's a number of things that can happen, and I really believe that's really what leads into autoimmune disorders, which is a whole nother topic. It's kind of when your body starts attacking itself, and you can develop problems with arthritis and fibromyalgia, thyroid disease. So it's kind of key to get yourself unplugged. And there has to be a way that we can, and I suffer from this too, because I kind of like to be plugged in. I like to be almost overstimulated most of the time. I'm wired that way.
Yeah, I know Rick told me that.
I love a lot of projects. I love, keeping a lot of balls in the air.
I've seen your cultural test. I know where you are.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that. And so, I fight that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that there are many people like me and you that enjoy being plugged in. But but we get so much more if we can unplug for an hour or two a day. And there's got to be a way that we can literally just schedule it so that we can just turn it off.
All right, back to Candida. If that is a contributing factor to fatigue, how do you get cleaned out?
So the first thing that we do is there's a number of tests, as I told you. We might order some of those tests, or many times I'll give patients a written test in the office to identify if they have it, and then look at their actual score. For women, if they score over 140, they're positive. If men score over 180, they're positive. So I'll give them that test. If we don't want to go along the lines of the stool or urine testing. And if they're positive, I give them a prescription, sort of an antifungal prescription. And not everybody needs to take the prescription, but if you score high enough, you probably should. And that's a prescription that's taken over a 2-week period of time, not every day. Mm-hmm. And then they go on a very strict diet to help clean up the yeast. So we take out the sugar, the flour, and all fermented foods. So that combination of the prescription and that specific cleanse for 2 weeks is unbelievable in helping people regain their energy. It also is unbelievable in helping clear up the skin, whether it be psoriasis, skin problems, skin itching, hives. If they're suffering from an autoimmune disorder, it helps boost their immune system so that they're more resilient to that. Again, they start absorbing the nutrients from their food much better. Mm-hmm. I don't like to use the probiotics while the probiotics is the good bacteria putting back in the gut and in a supplement form. I don't use the probiotics while I'm treating the Candida. I'll use them in high doses afterwards. And just that combination, I've had patients come in with really terrible boils on their skin, unusual hives that nobody can figure out, chronic fatigue, inability to lose weight, bloating, irritable bowel syndrome, fatigue, attention deficit issues. And just cleaning up the gut is so amazing what it can do to somebody's health. And so I like to start there, along with looking at hormone levels and making sure that there isn't anemia or some other kind of infectious disease that might be going on that causes fatigue. But just doing that general check initially usually unveils something that's going on.
Why is this whole subject of flour so on somebody's radar screens now? I mean, it seems it's recently this whole flour issue and has become quite the thing, you know.
Well, I think that, I think the gluten, that's the big buzzword today, is gluten. But really we've developed, my opinion is we've developed a gluten sensitivity because we've basically spent 30 years, 20 years, 25 years, well, probably 30 years, ODing on flour products. Especially since the low-fat craze has come, it's kind of come and gone. We basically turned to flour. We had a food pyramid that said 6 to 11 bread servings a day. So for many, many years now, we've just completely overdosed on flour products. Flour is in everything, and it's good, and it's comforting, and it's we just eat too much of it. And so what people don't often understand is that you can develop a sensitivity or an allergy to anything you OD on. So many times when we do food sensitivity tests on patients to find out, well, maybe they're allergic to something, and that's the reason why they have fatigue. Well, it might just be that they've been eating that particular food group way too much, or food item too much. And flour is one of them. Our body isn't meant to have that much flour. I think that, or any flour at all, it's almost like just kind of blowing up the body, kind of like yeast rising in the gut. It's really bad for the gut.
Sometimes fatigue is also associated with a lot of pain, joint pains and things like that, and I would assume that that's Candida related.
Yes, I think cleaning up the gut, not only so that you can absorb your nutrients better, but that particular diet, especially it's more strict in the beginning, and then you can add some things back into the diet as you go on. That particular diet is the most wonderful energy diet because you're extracting all the foods that cause fatigue. So, and it's very clean, it's very wholesome, and it's very clean. It's probably the way we were meant to eat, which is all whole foods. So people feel better just doing the diet, but they feel even better if we can treat the yeast and get them back to a very good pattern from a gut standpoint.
Is it possible to come off of sugar? Everything, it's in everything.
It's difficult. And again, this is something I struggle. I'm a huge sugar addict. I come from a long line of sugar addicts.
She's got chocolate in her purse, folks. I see it down there.
Chocolate's okay. So it's hard. You know, I just say it's kind of like religion. You have to get up every day and rededicate yourself to, okay, today I'm going to work really hard at eating foods that are healthy for me, that will help me feel better and less painful. Because the inflammatory process of sugar and flour is directly related to pain. So if you have a problem in your body, whether it be a sprained ankle or a bad back or anything in between that, and you're eating a lot of sugar and flour in your diet or processed foods that are not man-made, you're going to have more pain, period. So if you want less inflammation in your body, not only cleaning up the gut and maybe treating the candida, but also getting off those foods really does make a difference. And if you have a day where you've gone crazy or you've been on vacation and you're eating a lot of those foods, that happens, and it's going to happen. But just start back the next day and get back on it.
Is the dangers of chronic fatigue, can it lead to heart issues?
Yes, chronic fatigue, I think if it's undiagnosed, I believe that chronic fatigue and things like fibromyalgia and some other autoimmune disorders, in my opinion, is a diet, lifestyle, and hormone imbalance. So I love to go in and treat all of those things and then see what I get. Because most of the time, chronic fatigue goes away, fibromyalgia goes away, autoimmune disorders start to be, more under control. And so that's where I like to start, because if you don't do that, what are you going to do? There's really no treatment for these disorders. So, there's medications, but typically they have side effects, and how long are you going to use them? So you have to do some of these underlying investigations and treatment in order to get better. But that's what we should be doing anyway. So. Well,
it's a big issue. Let me just say to our viewers and listeners, if you want more information, you can go to ventanawellness.com and check it out. They got a lot of things going on there and help you with all of this. But overall energy level, I think people are just way overstressed. I think these gadgets keep us on edge.
Yes, and I think so too.
We need to take some, I call them media fasts. Why not?
Right.
Turn it off.
Yes.
I love
and
walking.
Get outside.
Yeah,
get outside.
I walk and I just don't take anything with me. I don't have any. I'm not plugged in. You go to the gym and everybody's plugged in. I'm wondering what are they doing?
I know.
I don't know what they're listening to.
I agree.
All right. Let me see if we can squeeze in one more call before we run out of time. Hi, Carrie. You're on the air with Nisha. What's your question?
Yeah, I'm in construction and I work, all day, use my hands, tools. I wake up and my fingers are like cramped, really painful, but I work them, pretty soon they're back to normal. Got any ideas what would cause that?
Well, certainly overuse is probably the most common cause of that. Staying hydrated, again, the same diet recommendations that I just talked about are really important. Making sure that your blood sugar stays stable. And I would get on some herbs for inflammation. I mean, there's wonderful herbs and ointments out there. We even have excellent pain creams that can be compounded at a compounding pharmacy that are higher dose in magnesium. You could have a magnesium deficiency. Vitamin D deficiency, we haven't talked too much about that today, but vitamin D deficiency can cause pain and reduced strength in your hands and lower extremities. So there's other things that you can do to look at that. MSM, you can get that in a cream form. Arnica is an excellent ointment that you could rub on your hands that reduces inflammation and promotes natural healing. So there's some different things that you can do that would help that, but I would make sure that all the basics are covered and that you're not overusing your hands, which I'm sure you are with that type of work.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, Nisha, thank you. It's a big topic, and the first thing they should do, if they really feel like they're really overly tired, to the point where now the alarms are going off, they should go see you or a physician, huh?
Yes, I would recommend getting some basic testing, especially if maybe, this happens a lot that they've already been to a medical provider and they've said, there really isn't anything wrong, we've looked at everything. If that's the case, you're a great candidate for doing this type of investigation and treatment. But also there's things you can do on your own, correcting vitamin D deficiencies, vitamin C, B vitamins, multi-B vitamins is very helpful. Cleaning up your diet, ensuring that you're sleeping every night, and unplugging your brain. Starting with that is key. Turn it off.
And don't eat late.
Yes, don't eat late. Exactly.
All right, thank you. Again, VentanaWellness.com. Check it out. Thanks, Nisha.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.